let me get started with the recording because I know everybody's going to be asking later on, is the session recorded? Yes, with Maril's permission, the session is recorded. We will be posting it on YouTube later after we finish. So if you do not know us, me or Maril, this is the first time you join us. Welcome everybody to HAVOC. HAVOC stands for Hackers Academy Virtual Online Conferencing, and this is as the name suggests, a virtual online conference that we have once a month, where we invite awesome people like Maril to join us and talk about, their career, some advice, some cool stuff they've been working on and whatnot. So welcome, Maril. Thank you so much for joining us today and for making the time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure. So let's get started with sharing a little bit about your story, because this is honestly what really got me interested in hearing more from you. I sort of came across it on Twitter, I think, and I found it amazing, like how you transitioned in such a record time from a Bachelor in Arts to full-blown pen testing, which is something incredibly rare to hear. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background. How did you end up doing what you do right now?
I did come from a non-technical background. I have a Bachelors of Arts in Russian language and Soviet studies. And after that, I went on to kind of work, in corporate customer service and marketing. And I was actually a social media manager before I started working in InfoSec. And everyone asks me, how did you do that? And I was like, well, they're actually directly related to each other, because I used my marketing experience when I realized I didn't want to stick with that, and that really had nowhere for me to go. And I wanted to get into something that was, challenging and different every day and let me use my brain and think creatively and, really never have a knowledge ceiling to hit. I eyed cyber, and I was like, well, I want to break into this career that is impossible to get into unless you already have experience. So how am I going to get that? What am I going to do to get my foot in the door? And I was like, well, I will just go to the one place where they hand training out like candy. And I signed up for the military. So I joined the National Guard. And I told them I wanted to work in cyber. And they were like, well, cyber's not open right now. And I was like, okay, how about Intel? And they were like, that's not open either. And I was like, then it doesn't matter where you put me. I won't be working in that job in 4 months. And they're like, that's so cute. Okay. So they put me in public affairs, and and I started networking. I networked with every captain, every NCO, every squadron leader I could get my hands on. And I started telling them all why they should have me working in their shop. And, at this point, I had no technical experience. I still am basically working in marketing. But I'm really good at talking to people. I'm really good at networking, and I'm really good at leveraging my soft skills. And I was like, listen, I know I have no experience in this area, but here's why you're going to give me a chance anyway. And I swear you won't regret it. And they're like, okay, you convinced us. And then they let me transition to cyber. So I got into cybersecurity in the military, and I was still waiting to go to boot camp. I hadn't been to any schools yet. I hadn't been to any training. And I threw that up on LinkedIn and immediately started networking with people in the cybersecurity community, because I'm like, I need to know who the people are. I need to know where to go to get the advice, who I can bounce my dumb questions off of. Like, I have a million questions. I didn't even know where you could go in this field or what it meant to be in cybersecurity. So, I leveraged my title, and I worked my way into my first job in corporate InfoSec. I actually got recruited, and this lady was like, you do this for the military? And I was like, let me tell you how that works. Even if I was doing my job already, which I'm not, I've been doing this for like 5 months for 2 days a month, right? So that's like less than 2 calendar weeks. I was like, I don't think I can do this job. And she was like, I totally think you can do this job. And I'm like, okay. So I talked to the manager, I talked to the lady doing the job, and she was like, really, all you need to do is know how to go through audits, work with large documents, document your butt off, talk about your things, talk about your findings. And I was like, okay, I could learn all that. That's totally something I can do. So I used my technical title to get into my first job. Once I was in my first job, I hit the ground running. I absorbed everything I could. I put my name on everything. I volunteered for everything. Something needed to be researched, if something needed to be written, if something needed to be spoken about in a meeting. I did all of that until the pen tester position opened up. And I'd been working in my job for 3 months. And I was like, well, I kind of work with our vulnerability management. I've written a few pen test reports. Like, I'm really up and up on everything going on in this company. And I was like, I'm going to go out for that job. And they were like, well, sweetie, if you want to go for this job, you have to have at least a security plus. and the job closes in 3 weeks. So good luck with that. And I was like, okay. So 3 months into my career, I got my first certification. I got Security Plus, and then they had to give me an interview. I talked my way into that job, again, leveraging my networking and my soft skills and the knowledge that I already had working for the company. And then I became a pen tester. And really, it's just, more developing your knowledge, more hitting the ground running, absorbing what you can. And then I worked my way to my first major promotion less than a year and a half later, and here I am. So that's my story.
Wow, amazing. Well, congratulations on the promotion, and congratulations on the new role as well. I mean, that's a lot that happened in a year and a half.
Yes,
there's a couple of things that really caught my attention in your story. And one of them is that you openly admit, and I'm just echoing back what you said, so don't hold it against me. You openly admit that when you started, you had some, dumb questions that you needed to go and seek help. You needed to go and ask people some questions. And I see a lot of people that are shying away from doing this, especially when they get started with cybersecurity and maybe other domains. I don't know. I mean, you had the fortune to come from multiple domains. Maybe you've seen something similar. What would you tell fresh students, fresh graduates, or even professionals that are transitioning, that are shying away from asking questions, that are shying away from admitting that, they need to learn, they need to ask stupid questions sometimes? What would you tell them?
I would say, while you're new, be new all the way. Like, that's what I did. I was like, listen, when they gave me my first job as the risk analyst, where I got into pen testing from, I said, I don't know what an IP address is. I don't know anything technical at all. I said, but I learn really fast. I'm dedicated. And if you give me a chance, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to take it and make it my own. And that impressed them enough. So I'm going to say, have passion. If you have passion, don't be afraid to be the dumbest person in the room. Say, listen, I'm the dumbest person in this room. I don't understand any of this. I'm going to have a lot of questions, and just set that bar nice and low. And then if you know stuff, or if you don't have to ask questions, or if you're picking it up, they're going to be like, wow, the guy who just said he had no idea what's going on, he actually is able to keep up with us. This is very, encouraging. We know that he's not going to wash out of the material. That, and it lets you ask the questions. Like, I was in a meeting once where I understood like 90% of what was going on, but they kept referencing one tool or one protocol I didn't recognize. And I was like, I'm not going to say in front of all my coworkers that I don't know what that thing is. I'm just going to Google it when the meeting is over. And my security architect goes, I'm sorry, you're using a term I don't understand. You're talking about this? What is that? I've never heard of that. And I was like, oh, the guy working here for 16 years has never heard of this thing. Awesome. We're all on the same page. So just know there's so much to know in security. Like, the head of detection and response has no idea what half of my tools are. And, no one knows it all. And sometimes you do know it, or you forgot, or someone uses it differently and you just need your memory jogged. But don't be afraid to speak up. Industry career professionals who've been doing this for 20 years encounter new things all the time. And they're not afraid to say, well, I've been here for 16 years and I've never heard of that. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be the stupidest person in the room. Don't be afraid to ask your dumb questions. I'm like, hi, I have a dumb question. Sit down and answer it for me. Otherwise, I'm never going to know the answer.
Awesome. That's probably going to be my motto going forward. Hi, I have a dumb question. My name is Tariq.
That's what I do.
So one of the things that you said is that, security is obviously a huge, fast major with so many different new things coming up all the time, right? And there's no way for us to learn and know everything. I'm curious, is it something like pen testing? Was it something that you sort of set your mind to, that you wanted to get into, or did you just happen to fall into it? If it was something that you set your mind to, how did you decide that this is what I want to do? The reason I'm asking this is because there's a lot of times that students approach us and say, hey, there's so many things in security, I have no idea where to start. Mm-hmm. So what was your mindset there?
I got a really good exposure as the risk person to a lot of the different facets of information security. But when I first started, I thought I wanted to go into GRC. I was like, I get the regulations, I can digest them well, I know what they mean, I'm good with audits. Like, this really sounds like a place where my administrative and my cybersecurity can come together in a happy place. But then I was asking the guys in my shop, where can you go in this field? What can you do? I don't even know what the different things are. And they were like, well, you could be a you could be an ethical hacker, I guess. And I was like, that sounds cool. What is that? Just like everybody else. And I feel so bad now because that's how it happened for me. And people are like, I want to be a pen tester. And I'm like, just so you know, pen testing isn't the end all be all. It's not the only place there is to go in security. There are so many security positions that are outside of pen testing. I fell in love with the idea of it. And I looked into it more and said, what do you need to know? What does this job entail? What would I actually be doing? Would I like it? Despite the jazzy title, would I like doing the job? And I figured out that I would. So I started trying, some pen testing related activities like writing the reports, developing a test plan, looking into the tools, working with them, installing them, spinning up a lab for the first time. And as I learned all of that, that came really easily to me and I really enjoyed it. And that told me, this is probably where I belong. And it just took off from there. But I would say, get into an organization or use your current organization, or get into an analyst role. Because as an analyst, you're a really low level person, but you get to kind of have your finger in a lot of different projects. You get to work with a little bit of vuln management, a little bit of, probably some of the offensive testing you're doing, probably some audit, probably some GRC, probably some risk. So it's going to give you a really broad exposure and you can kind of decide what you enjoy doing or figure out where your strengths are, because the easiest way to make it in this field is to do something you're good at. And if you're good at it and it takes very little of your time and effort to be and stay good at it and learn new things, then that's a really sweet spot to be in. So I would definitely say get in somewhere, figure out how your organization does security. Do we have a CIO? Do we have a CISO? Do we have an InfoSec department? Is it one guy working in IT ops who does security? And start networking with those people and ask them, can I come to one of your meetings? Can I read the reports you put out? Can I help with any of your projects? Can I play a support role? And you will become a security knowledge person. And then you can start having ideas and saying, hey, I noticed you do it this way. Why don't you do it this way? Or we should track this thing. This thing's coming up. Are we tracking this? Just thought I'd bring it to your attention. And they'll start seeing you as a security peer. And then you can decide where you want to go in security once you're there. But yeah, for me, it was pen testing. But I like the report writing part and I like the planning part. And a lot of people don't like that part. So I always say, if you don't like writing, don't become a pen tester. I spend very little of my time actually hacking something and most of my time writing about how I'm going to hack or how I already hacked something. So that's my advice to you guys.
That's actually pretty solid advice because so I've done pen testing for about 12 years or so. And one thing that you mentioned, which I completely agree with, is that when you start, you probably want to start with what I call the grunt work of pen testing. So reading reports, seeing what other pen testers do, experimenting a little bit with things. Don't expect to jump in and start getting shells from day one. I remember the first time I submitted a report, my manager sent it back to me with corrections. I looked at it. I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm getting fired today. I panicked. It had so many issues and so many squiggly lines and comments. It was horrible. It looked really bad. But then you learn. Sorry, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was afraid to write recommendations. I was like, I can tell you what the problem is, where we found it, and how it happened. And then it's like, well, what do you recommend? And I'm like, I don't know. Do we want them to change a firewall rule? Do we want to? I don't want to tell them what to do and be wrong. I don't want that to be on me. And that's kind of this is my new favorite soapbox, is that people approach me all the time. They're like, I've been an embedded systems engineer for 12 years. I've been a sysadmin for how many years? Or I've been doing this for how many years? And I went on, whatever platform, Hack the Box, try hack me. And I learned all these red teaming skills. These are actually different. You're on the red team as a pen tester, but you're not a red teamer. I learned all these pen testing skills. I know how to hack stuff and no one will let me be a pen tester. And I'm like, well, there's more involved than just knowing how to break the thing or how to exploit the thing or how to find the flag or find or get the shell. What do you do once you have the shell? Do you know? So I'm like, knowing how to do a hacking skill does not make you a pen tester. You need to still be a rounded security professional, or you're going to go to write that first report and say, this is how I broke all your crap. And then when they say, cool, how do we fix that? What do we do against that? You go, oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know how you fix it. I just know how I broke it. And that doesn't make you an effective security professional. No company just incepted a red team and said, there you go. We have offensive testing now. Every person who works on a red team came from a blue team first. We were all security professionals, hardening an environment first before we took our outlook proactive and started offensively testing ourselves. So if you can't do the security part, don't be a pen tester. You're the worst kind of pen tester there is. I said what I said. I'm going to catch a lot of flack for that one, but I said what I said.
And I stand by it, honestly. Listen, I'm the first one to admit that as a pen tester, when I started many, many years back, was much more younger and handsomer. I had a bit of an attitude problem, which I now see with pen testers all the time. They think because we are pen testers, because we're able to break things, that makes us above everybody else. And I only got an attitude adjustment when I switched jobs and moved into security architecture. And I found out how difficult and how challenging the job is. And that really, really humbled me. So this is, what Maril is saying, this is gold, guys. Like, if you're planning to get into pen testing, try to put away your attitude, put away, the ego, and learn and work with other people. This is the only way you're going to grow, and you're going to help others grow as well.
Agreed.
It's just some golden nuggets here.
Yeah, in security, we're viewed as the no department, right? Like, oh God, here comes the people who are going to tell us, no, we can't have this thing we want. Like, in security, you need to be good at building relationships with other departments. You need to have those friendships and those collaborations and those people you can rely on to be like, no, they're right. We're not doing this as well as we could be. And it's a fast, simple, complex, expensive fix for us, but we need to do this at some point. Like, it's good to have people on your side in other departments. And, we're always excited to talk about security. We want to come in and say, we found all these holes. We want to help you fix them. But all the people you're talking to are hearing, like the architects and the developers, all they're hearing is, this is how bad you are at your job. This is how much of a mess your product is. And if you don't want them to feel that way, you need to come at it with some humility. Like, we know we broke it really bad. We know we pwned some things really, really well, but we're here to help. We're here to help you fix it. We're here to make sure that we're the only people who can do this to us. No one else. Like, we're here to make sure, we don't know why it's this way. If you inherited this system, if you designed it yourself, if you did, we're super happy to help. You want to be, you want to be that friendly face in the meeting. You don't want people to like dread when you walk on in with your report full of findings. So like what Tarek said, go in with that bit of humility and put away the attitude and be the badass hacker that you are in front of the computer, but be the nice coworker that you are in front of the other departments.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a controversial topic, to be honest. And it's something that bugs me a little bit personally as well. When I see a lot of people on Twitter, bragging about breaking things, achieving quite a bit, and, all respect to what they're achieving in bug bounties and whatnot. But what I see that they don't realize is that there's a lot more to it than just this, finding an SQLI or XSS or whatever it is. And this is something that, I'm with you 100%. It's, I don't know if you want to call it an attitude adjustment, but it's definitely something that needs to be fixed about this in our community. Speaking of our community, so I want to talk about something that is quite unique to you. I see that you are very active on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc., which is quite unique to Maril. Not a lot of pen testers do that. Usually, they shy away from social media. One of the things, obviously, that that sort of keeps on popping up in social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, and whatnot, are people's achievements. How much did I make in this bug bounty? How much certificates did I achieve, etc. And it does, I hear that quite often from people. It does sort of bring down their motivation, because they look at all these achievements and they think, okay, why am I not able to do that? Like, what's wrong with me? What's your take on this, given that you're pretty active on social media?
It's a double-edged sword, it's like, not everyone is going to post their whole struggle. Someone who just got a $40,000 bug bounty isn't going to be like, God, I had to stay up until 3 a.m. for 2 straight years learning how to bug bounty. And then I got last in every competition for my next 5 years trying to get one. And this is my first one, my first 0 day that I got by myself. Like, you don't see those. All you see is I'm making all this money and kicking all this ass. And it can make you feel really discouraged. It's disheartening to be like, wow, how am I ever going to compete with that? Like, is there even any more room at the top for another professional? Or am I just going to not be that guy, when I grow up in my career? And I used to think that same thing. I used to be like, wow, look at all these moguls. Look at all these, 20 most epic women in cybersecurity. Like, am I ever going to measure up to that? Am I ever going to be, Dr. Chen Si-wen? Like, probably not. And then I remembered, I have my own strengths. I can do things unique unto me that no one else can do. And I went back to my roots and I remembered, how did I get into this field in the first place? What did I rely on? And I was like, well, I relied on my networking and I relied on my soft skills and I relied on my passion. And then I remembered, oh yeah, social media is also my bitch. I used to make my living doing social media. And I was like, I tell people this all the time, like, I'm not the best voice out there. I'm not the most talented voice out there. I can give you a dozen people better than me at what we do. But I'm one of the only voices out there. I'm one of the most vocal people in my industry. I can do something that people in my field want to do and can't very well, or just avoid, like you said, altogether. Like, we're not doing that. We're not getting on camera. We're not talking to other people. And so that is the unique thing that I had. And that was something I leveraged. I said, when I first got my first job, I said, I don't have anything technical, right? Didn't even know how IP addressing worked, but I can speak really well. I understand technical and I can explain it to non-technical people. And I have really good rapport and people building skills. And like, this is what I bring to the table. And they're like, great, we have a face chick. She's going to be the sacrificial lamb to go to all the meetings. And that's what I did. And that was great for me because that got my face in front of so many people. I was like the face of the security department, And so all I'm going to say is, like, if you want to be in this industry, you can't give up. You can't be easily deterred and you can't give up. As a hacker, if I'm like, well, I footprinted this machine and I found some versions, but there's no vulnerabilities. So I guess I'm done here. I guess I'll just give up. That is not how you hack things. Like, you got to be like, no, I'm going to find every little thing. I'm going to check every dot on a 10 file in the hopes of getting one admin hash that's probably old, but I'm going to get it anyway. Like, you got to check under every rock. You got to persist. You got to never give up. You got to remind yourself why you got here. What did you come here for? Did you come here for money? There's money to be had lots of places. Did you come here because you love security and you love the people in the community and you have a passion for the subject? Then be here and be here all the way, and understand that it's a lot like show business. You're going to get a lot of no's and a lot of silence, and there's going to be a lot of hills to climb. But if everyone could climb these hills, then everybody would. So, don't give up. Remember why you're here and remember what you bring to the table. Remember what makes you special. Like, if we only had one person to look up to and there was nobody else, that would pretty much be it. But, we have so many moguls in this industry and so many influencers and so many like people we can learn from. And it gives us different avenues. And like two hackers could even attack an SQLI the same way, or like want to do an SQLI and do it different ways. And we could learn something different from both of them. So variety is good. You have something to bring. There's plenty of room at the top. Success is not like pie. There's plenty for everybody here. More for you does not mean less for me, but you can't give up. You really have to persevere. And when the world tells you no, the world told me no, you have to get creative. Put your hacker hat on. Well, if I could work this, if I could hack this process, if I could hack this system, if my application isn't getting looked at, how do I hack that? How do I fix it? How do I stack it towards my favor? Because you never want to show up to a fair fight as a hacker. You always want the odds to be in your favor. So you got to make it happen for yourself. That's my rant. Done now. Sorry.
The guys, listen to Mama Maril. Mama Maril's got some amazing advice for you. It's like the way you're just pointing fingers, and it's just, I'm loving this. I really am.
I'm talking to you guys. You are
everybody
here.
On the chat, they're like, we're loving this. But listen, so one thing that I loved about what you said is the variety, and I'm gonna go off on a very small tangent. I just finished reading, or actually listening to a book called Range. And the reason I listen to this book is because a lot of times when you're talking to security specialists, all they focus about and what their advice is, pick one discipline and just go really deep, focus really deep on it, and try to specialize and become an expert in it. And that sort of started to get to me because I've been in the industry for about 15 years. So I was reading this book, and it just highlights exactly what you're talking about. Like the superstars, super athletes, etc. They all come from a variety of different backgrounds, and this is what's making you shine. I believe. It's languages, marketing, social media, risk, and now pen testing. I mean, how many pen testers in the world can you think are pretty similar to who you are right now? I don't think there's many, to be honest. So it's just a sideline of a book recommendation for everybody on the call. It's called Range. I don't know who the author is, but I'm pretty sure you can find it. Highly recommended. One thing that you mention quite often, Maril, is the passion. That's what's keeping you driven. And I get that, but it's something that keeps coming up, right? Passion, passion, passion. And what I like to talk about normally is the other side of the table. What do you do when the passion is not there anymore, or when you're feeling demotivated, or when you're no longer passionate about something? How do you handle this? Because obviously you cannot be 100% passionate all the time.
I've hit the anti-passion point with other things I've done. I came in, I was excited to learn something new. Like when I started in marketing, I was a copywriter. I didn't work in social media. And then they were like, we're going to put you in social media. I was like, cool. Social media is infinite. That is huge. I will never learn all the things there is to social media. This is awesome. Oh, no. And then I learned it all. And I was like, well, this is my job every day now. Still doing all the things it's supposed to do. I'm not in love with this anymore. And honestly, when that happens to me, I have to find a new angle. I have to find a new angle of this thing or a new challenge. And if there's no new challenge, then I have to move on to something else. I make myself replaceable. I train someone else to do exactly what I'm doing so I can go do something cooler. I target the thing that I want and I go get that thing. So, if you don't have passion for what you're doing, if you are not in love with it, then you got to supplement that with something else. Like if you have some pen testing skills, but you can't be a pen tester, it's not going to happen for your company. You're a sysadmin during the day, then cool, be a sysadmin. Be a sysadmin who hops online with his bug bounty friends and hacks into the night and achieves really cool things that, you don't get to do on the day job. It's not fair, but at least you have an outlet. At least you have something you can do. So if you're not feeling it, find a challenge, find something that intimidates you and work towards that thing. Honestly, I got to a point with pen testing where I couldn't stand pen testing anymore. I did it for a year and a half and I got really, really good at it with what I had. And my company wasn't going to give me anything new to do with it. So I was like, I am over this. And every pen test report felt like a chore. They took me forever to write because I just couldn't get into it. And I was like, I need something new. I need something new to work towards because my passion's going to die. And I started looking into bug bountying. I started looking into red and purple team methodology. And I was like, purple teaming, this is new. This is something completely new. I'm going to pioneer a purple teaming program. And that was what, I'll get my pen test done super fast so I could work more on the purple teaming stuff and like the true red teaming engagements. And like, I was going to sell it to senior management and preparing presentations and writing documentation. I got really jazzed about the idea of the project. So, find something to recharge your batteries, or maybe it's time to acknowledge that your season there is done and it's time to move on. Document your processes, make yourself replaceable, let a junior person learn where you learned and you move on to something cooler.
Absolutely. So this is, guys, again, for everybody on the call, this is really amazing advice that I learned the hard way, right? And I'm very impressed that, Maril's been in the industry for a couple of years and she's already matured enough to share this really solid advice with you. When I started, I did pen testing for a couple of years. Then I wanted to move into forensics. I did that for a year and I absolutely hated it. I didn't even last a year. Moved back to pen testing, got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm making all these recommendations. You should have a SIM installed. You should have this installed. But I've never actually touched a SIM in my life before. So I wanted to change and, move to the other side of the table. So never worry or never fear about, dropping whatever it is that you're doing and just switching to something else. Within information security, absolutely. But even if at that point in time you decided, you know what, I don't want to do information security. I don't want to do cybersecurity anymore. There's no shame in that. There's absolutely no shame. I actually quit information security for 2 years during my career. And I went into a completely different direction that I'm not going to be talking about now. But it's something completely unrelated. And then I decided, you know what, I really miss information security. I want to go back to it. And I came back stronger and more motivated. So never, ever shy away from saying, you know what, this is not for me. I didn't like it, and just move on. Obviously, if you have the chance or if you have the opportunity. Maril, we're coming to the close of our time. One last question. I feel like I can talk to you for hours, but I'm not going to keep you for hours. One last question. I know that you do a lot of mentorship and you help juniors as well break into the field. Hence the name of our webinar, Breaking into Offensive Security. In your experience from working with different people, I want to hear from you. Who do you think this field, particularly offensive security, who is it for? And more importantly, who is it not for?
I always say it's for anyone. Anyone can do this, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody is going to love it. I think it's for, and I know I've harped on this a number of times, it's for anyone who's passionate about it. And people are like, well, no one's going to give me a job. I'm passionate. Like I am passionate. It's not enough. I'm like, you're probably feeling your passion, but are you showing it? We need people who show it, people who get involved in cons and projects and open source tools and contribute back, and people who are talking about it and driving conversations. That's what we need. We need people who are going to innovate and disrupt in this industry. We don't need people who are going to do what's always been done. We've already done it. We don't need people who are going to refuse to learn ever again and be like, well, I know this thing now. That's it. Not learning anything new. That's never going to float you in this field. So I always say we really do need people who like eat, sleep, and breathe it, who want to work their job pen testing and get off work and then go bug bounty some more with their friends. Like, it's not for people who want to specialize in one thing. That book, good advice. I would say target your learning and specialize in something until you know it and then branch out. But don't specialize in just one thing. I, like Tarek mentioned, am good at risk. I'm good at marketing. I'm good at pen testing. I'm good at red teaming. I'm good at purple teaming. I've got a lot in my arsenal. If you just want to be a pen tester and nothing else, you're not even going to learn some blue. You're not even going to be good at pen testing. So no one who wants to specialize in just one thing. It's not for people who want to stop learning, who think that they can just kick back and rely on the skills they've got. Your skills will be outdated in 6 months. I promise you. And it's not for people who want to hoard knowledge to themselves. It's not for someone who says, I want to get to the top and then tell nobody how I did it and just be at the top and just love myself here on top of the mountain. Like, you need to give back. You need to tell people how you did it. Document it. Make tutorials. Make yourself replaceable. Or you should be at cons training people if you're at the top. You shouldn't still be doing the job. Then you're still a technician. Train other technicians and go and teach the technicians of tomorrow. So if you're going to come on in, just please be that member of the community. Be someone people can ask questions to. If you got someone's time and they held your hand, hold the hand of someone else behind you who wants to be where you are today.
So just to wrap up from the top of my head, some of the key takeaways that I personally learned from Maril today is, don't be afraid to ask some questions. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. Do you mind explaining that for me, please? It doesn't matter if you're a junior or a senior. There's always going to be a situation where there's somebody talking about something that you don't understand. Don't be shy to say, what is this? Can you please explain it to me? Passion is absolutely important. And sometimes you might get discouraged, you might get dispassionate. That's absolutely fine. Try to look around, see if there's anything else that will interest you. And one of the things that I think sets Maril apart is her variety and her range. So this is something that I would suggest that everybody looks into as well. So these are some key takeaways that I personally learned. I hope you guys enjoyed this today. I hope you got a lot more from it as well. Please make sure that you follow Maril on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on whatever social media, Discord, etc. I'll be sharing all of this with you. And for all of you who came in late today, yes, the session will be recorded. Yes, we will be sharing it with you later on. Any last words, Maril, before we wrap up?
I just want to say, I see a lot of direct messages asking me questions. I'm sorry we don't have time. Please, please, please reach out to me. Tell me you watched this and that you had a question that didn't get answered. I'm happy to answer them for you. Remember that anybody can be the security person. If you work in marketing, if you work in audit, if you work in customer service, you can still be a security person. And last but not least, if you really want help, if you really want to plug into the players that you can ask your dumb questions to, show up where we show up. Connect with us on Twitter. Start talking to us. Get with us on Discord. There's tons of Discord servers with nothing but help. I'll invite you to a few if you ask me. You can get in and say, Maril invited me. I can be here and ask my questions and I will help you. But yeah, help us help you. We want more people here.
Thank you so much, Maril. Really, really appreciate it. Loved it. And wishing you a great day. And hopefully we'll get to do this again sometime soon.
Happy to come back anytime. It was so much fun. Thanks everyone for tuning in today and spending your time here with us.